Imagine finding a single penny that could change your entire life. Not a suitcase of cash, not a lottery ticket, not a business deal. Just a small, ordinary-looking copper coin resting at the bottom of a drawer, and realizing it could be worth nearly $1 million. Today, we're diving into the hidden world of the 1964 D. Lincoln penny, a coin that collectors chase with an intensity usually reserved for treasure hunters and stock market gamblers. And trust me, once you understand why this little coin is selling for as high as $964,000 in today's market, you'll never look at loose change the same way again. Before we go deeper, let me ask you something. When was the last time you checked your old coins? Last year? 10 years ago? Never? Most people don't. And that tiny habit is the reason millions of dollars in rare pennies are still sitting unnoticed in jars, shelves, and family boxes across America. Somewhere, right now, someone is walking past a fortune without even knowing it. For your sake, I hope that someone isn't you. The story of the 1964 D penny doesn't begin with value. It begins with chaos. In the early 1960s, the United States was facing a nationwide coin shortage. People were hoarding silver, the mint was under pressure, and millions of new coins had to be pushed into circulation fast. Denver's mint was working overtime, pumping out billions of pennies. But when the pressure is high and the machines are hot, mistakes happen. And in coin collecting, mistakes turn into money. That's what makes the 1964 D. Lincoln penny so fascinating. Most were ordinary. Billions, in fact. But a tiny handful, so few we can barely confirm how many exist, were struck under unusual conditions. Some were made with leftover planchets from previous years. Some were struck with sharper, high-quality dies intended for proofs. And a rumored few, well, let's just say their details are so crisp, their finish so strange, collectors still argue whether they were accidental experiments or intentional test strikes that were never meant to leave the mint. This uncertainty is the oxygen that keeps the value alive. In the world of rare coins, mystery is a currency of its own. Picture a coin that looks familiar at first glance, but the moment a collector's flashlight hits its surface, something feels different. The luster shines deeper, the strike is stronger, the rim is sharper, and suddenly, an ordinary penny transforms into a financial opportunity worth more than most people's annual salary, or several annual salaries. And for a lucky few, nearly $1 million. One 1964 D penny in nearly perfect condition recently shocked the market, selling for an unbelievable $964,000. You heard that right. A 1-cent coin sold for more than a luxury home, more than a Ferrari, more than many Americans hope to earn in a decade. Does that sound crazy? Absolutely. But that's exactly why this market is so exciting, and why it's attracting more people every single year. Now, here's the part that should make your heart beat a little faster. That coin didn't come from a museum, an estate of a billionaire, or a government archive. It came from a private collection, a regular person, someone who probably never imagined that an old penny they kept out of curiosity would skyrocket in value decades later. That could easily be you. The real question is, will you take the time to look? Let's talk details for a moment, because people who want to sell rare coins need to know exactly what to look for. With the 1964 D penny, condition is everything. Collectors want sharp details: Lincoln's hair, his coat, the lettering, the rim. They look for deep red luster with minimal marks. And above all, authenticity. Don't worry, you don't need to be an expert. There are professional grading services that will verify your coin, seal it, and assign it a grade that could multiply its value overnight. But here's the twist you might not expect. While condition determines the peak value, rarity determines the demand. Most 1964 D pennies are worth only a few cents. A few hundred might be worth $50 or $100. But the top-tier examples, the ones with extraordinary strikes, unusual finishes, or virtually flawless surfaces, those are the ones that collectors fight over. And they fight hard. Bidding wars break out. Prices climb. Emotions rise. If you've ever seen two collectors competing, you'll understand why the coin market thrives on passion and pride. It's like watching a financial version of a boxing match, except the winner walks away with a tiny copper treasure. But all this leads to an even bigger truth. People aren't just collecting these pennies because they love history. They're collecting them because rare coins are one of the few assets that combine emotional value, historical importance, scarcity, and financial potential. In other words, wealth. And that's why more Americans, especially people in their 30s to 60s, are looking at their old coins as hidden investments. Some want to sell. Some want to pass them on to their children. Some just want to find one life-changing coin. There's something powerful, even magical, about the idea that wealth might already be in your home, waiting to be discovered. So let me leave you with a small warning. Fear, when used correctly, can protect your opportunities. The biggest mistake people make is assuming their coins are worthless. They toss them, ignore them, or let them sit in damp boxes where they slowly deteriorate. That's like leaving a stack of $100 bills outside in the rain. You wouldn't do that, right? So why risk losing a penny worth $964,000? But this story isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up to possibility, to excitement, to opportunity. And just when you think the best discoveries have already been made, another rare coin appears in the news, selling for a price no one expected. Every year, collectors uncover new varieties, new errors, new treasures. The world of pennies is far from closed. In fact, it's opening wider. Here's something to think about. If a simple penny from 1964, a year of Beatlemania, drive-in theaters, and muscle cars, can become $1 million asset today, what else from your drawers and boxes is waiting to surprise you? What if you're one coin away from transforming your finances? What if the fortune you're looking for is already in your hands? In the next few minutes, I'll show you exactly how to inspect your coins, how to recognize valuable varieties, and where to sell them for maximum profit. But more importantly, I'll show you why acting now matters. Markets shift. Demand rises and falls. Collectors age. New investors enter. Timing is everything, and hesitation is the fastest way to lose opportunities that others are willing to grab immediately. And speaking of timing, I'm about to reveal the single most important trait that separates a regular 1964 D penny from the ultra-valuable ones. It's subtle, incredibly easy to miss, and it's the very reason collectors are paying close to $1 million for the finest examples. Imagine waking up one morning, reaching into an old jar of pennies you haven't touched in years, and discovering that one tiny copper coin, a coin you once overlooked, is now worth nearly $1 million. Sounds unreal, right? But what if I told you that the unassuming 1967 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, the same coin millions of Americans have handled, tossed into drawers or dropped between couch cushions, has recently shocked collectors with market values reaching as high as $967,000. And yes, in the rarest conditions, the right example can climb into the millions. That's why, today, you and I are about to uncover the truth about this coin, its hidden value, its unexplained rarity, and why it might be your secret gateway to a wealthier life. So stay with me, because what you're about to learn could change how you see every coin you've ever held. Before we dive deeper, think about this. How many pennies have you ignored in the past decade? 1,000? 10,000? Maybe more? And how often have you actually checked them for value? Most people never do. Most people assume pennies are worthless. But the people who check, those are the people who win. The ones who discover treasures buried in plain sight. Treasures like the 1967 no-mint mark penny. Now, here's where things get fascinating. The year 1967 wasn't just any year in US coinage. It was a year of transition, experimentation, and unusual minting conditions. The United States Mint temporarily removed mint marks from coins between 1965 and 1967 to discourage hoarding during a national coin shortage. That decision created a perfect storm. Millions of coins were produced, but very few were struck with exceptional quality. Most came out rushed, poorly handled, or heavily circulated. So while the 1967 penny is common in low grades, the ones that survived in flawless, untouched condition, those are the ones that now command eye-watering prices. And here's the twist most people don't know. The highest value 1967 pennies were never meant to be saved. They were never marketed as collectibles. They were never even given a chance to stand out. Which means the survivors are like needles in a haystack. They exist, but only the patient, persistent, and lucky ever find them. You can probably guess which group becomes wealthy. Imagine holding a coin in pristine condition, no scratches, no discoloration, no marks from time or handling. A coin that looks like it came straight off the production line yesterday. Collectors go wild for these. Investors fight over them. Auction houses build entire events around them. And in some cases, bidding wars have pushed the 1967 penny to nearly $1 million. Now picture this. Someone out there has one of these sitting in an old shoebox right now. Maybe someone like you. But before you rush to the nearest coin jar, let's walk through what makes these coins skyrocket in value. It starts with condition, or as the experts call it, grade. Coins graded MS65, MS66, MS67, and especially MS68 or above are considered the royal elite of the numismatic world. These grades represent the top fraction of a % of surviving coins. Finding a 1967 no-mint mark penny in MS67 or MS68 condition is like stumbling upon buried treasure. They look flawless under magnification, let alone to the naked eye. And because they're so rare, every collector with money to spend wants one. That's how the prices climb into the hundreds of thousands, and in the rarest cases, into the millions. Think about the power of that. One tiny coin can pay off a mortgage, can change your lifestyle. It can upgrade your retirement, transform your financial security, or even become the first step toward the wealth you've always imagined. And it all starts with knowing what to look for. But here's where the story gets even more interesting. There are rumors inside the coin community about ultra-high-grade 1967 pennies that have never surfaced, perfect, untouched examples hidden away somewhere. Every time a new coin appears, serious collectors brace themselves. Could this be the one that breaks the $1 million mark? Could this be the one that sets the next record? The mystery keeps the market alive, keeps prices rising, and it keeps people searching no matter how many jars, boxes, and drawers they need to dig through. So how do you check your 1967 penny? Start with the basics. Examine both sides under good lighting. Look for sharp details, smooth surfaces, and strong luster. Any scratch, discoloration, or wear will lower the grade, and even small imperfections matter. If your coin looks unusually clean or bright, that's a good sign. If it looks flawless, you might not want to breathe on it. And if it looks perfect to the naked eye, it might be time to get excited, but in a calm way. No need to wake the neighbors. And if you truly believe you've found something special, that's when you seek out professional grading services. A coin that looks like $100 find to the untrained eye could turn into a $1,000 discovery, or a $1 million miracle once certified. This is how ordinary people stumble into extraordinary wealth. But let me give you the emotional truth behind all of this. Most people ignore the opportunities sitting right in front of them. They glance at a penny and see 1 cent. They see something small, insignificant, disposable. But a few people, the ones watching this video right now, see possibility. They see hidden value. They see the chance to turn a forgotten object into life-changing wealth. Those people take action. They check every coin. They stay curious. They stay prepared. And more importantly, they position themselves for success. You might be wondering, why is this coin suddenly gaining so much attention? Why now? The simple answer is demand. As more collectors enter the market and more individuals begin to understand the value of old coins, the prices naturally increase. Combine that with the limited supply of high-grade 1967 pennies, and you get a perfect recipe for a price explosion. Every time an example sells for a new high, more people wake up to the opportunity. More investors jump in. More collectors want one. And the next sale climbs even higher. And here's something that might surprise you. Coins like the 1967 penny don't just go up in value, they can rise fast. Faster than real estate. Faster than certain stocks. Sometimes faster than gold. And while nothing in life is ever guaranteed, history has shown that rare coins often outpace traditional investments over time. So when you hear about a penny approaching $1 million, it's not luck. It's demand meeting rarity. It's the market recognizing something extraordinary. Now, I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine someone just like you watching this video a year ago. They heard about a rare penny. They checked their coin jar. They found something that looked promising. They got it graded. And today, they're telling their friends the unbelievable story of how 1 cent turned into a life-changing payout. Why shouldn't that person be you? What's stopping you from checking your coins? What's stopping you from discovering something incredible? As we move toward the end of this story, here's the cliffhanger most people never think about. Somewhere out there, a perfect 1967 penny still exists. Untouched, unseen, and unclaimed. No one knows where it is. No one knows who owns it. No one knows when it will appear. But when it does, the value could break every record we've ever seen. The question is, will it show up in a wealthy collector's vault? Or in an ordinary American home, tucked away in a dusty box waiting for someone bold enough to look? And that brings us right back to you. You're here because you're searching for opportunities to grow your wealth, to secure your future, and to live a life with more comfort and freedom. The 1967 no-mint mark penny is more than a coin. It's a reminder that fortune often hides in the things we overlook. That wealth can begin with curiosity, and that sometimes the difference between struggling and thriving is simply deciding to take one small action. Like checking the pennies sitting in your home right now. So before you leave this video, make yourself a promise. Don't ignore the coins you already have. Don't assume they're worthless. Because one day, one coin in one ordinary moment could alter the direction of your life. And if you're wondering whether your 1967 penny could be the one worth $967,000 or more, well, there's only one way to find out. Imagine walking past an old jar of coins in your home, the same jar you've ignored for years, not knowing that inside it could be a single penny capable of changing your entire financial life. Sounds impossible, right? And yet, for countless Americans holding on to old pocket change, this isn't just a fantasy. It's a quiet, hidden opportunity. Today, we're diving into the story of the 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that looks ordinary, feels ordinary, and yet has shocked the collecting world with sales soaring up to the $1 million range, including a recent market valuation reaching as high as $968,000. Yes, nearly $1 million for a penny. Let that sink in. But here's the twist. If you don't know what signs to look for, you might accidentally spend a fortune for a cup of gas station coffee. That mix of fear and excitement is exactly why this coin has become one of the most talked about pieces in American numismatics. And today, you're going to understand exactly why. Long before it drew the attention of investors, collectors, and wealth seekers, the 1968 no-mint mark penny lived a simple life. It rolled out of the Philadelphia Mint as part of the iconic Lincoln series, a coin design Americans know as well as the American flag itself. Most people used it for daily purchases, tossed it in drawers, or forgot it in the laundry. But beneath its copper surface, something remarkable was happening. The late 1960s were a turbulent time in America. Political unrest, cultural change, and a nation shifting faster than it could understand. And in the middle of it all, the U.S. Mint was quietly transitioning quality standards, adjusting die production, and navigating growing demand for small denomination coins. This chaotic environment, almost by accident, led to a series of extremely rare, high-grade strikes that are nearly impossible to find today. Think of it like lightning striking once in the same spot, and then striking again 5 decades later when these coins began resurfacing in near-perfect condition. Most 1968 pennies are worth pennies. But the microscopic number of surviving ultra-high-grade examples, those are the ones changing lives. And here's where things get interesting. Collectors aren't just paying a premium for nostalgia. They're paying for survival, the survival of a coin that was never meant to stay pristine. After all, how many pennies from 1968 do you think escaped pockets, vending machines, and decades of circulation without a scratch? Not many. That rarity creates urgency. A predictable, steady rise in demand mixed with a vanishingly small supply. The perfect storm for explosive value. Now, before we explore what makes a 1968 penny hit that millionaire mark, let me ask you a question. When was the last time you actually checked the coins sitting in your home? Not glanced at, truly examined? If you're like most people, probably never. And that's exactly why opportunities like these get overlooked. We assume nothing this small could hold real value. But then again, we also assume nobody pays $1 million for a penny. Clearly, assumptions can be very expensive. The true power of the 1968 no-mint mark penny lies in its condition. In the world of rare coins, condition isn't just important, it is everything. A regular circulated penny might be worth a couple of bucks, but a flawless, untouched, gem-level specimen? That's where we enter the territory of six-figure and seven-figure valuations. Grading companies like PCGS and NGC determine quality with surgical precision. They examine luster, strike clarity, surfaces, and microscopic imperfections. And in their records, the very highest grades for this coin are so rare that each confirmed example sends shockwaves through the collector community. Imagine you're holding a coin that has survived over 50 years without even a fingerprint interrupting its sheen. It's almost poetic. The idea that something so small, so ignored, could be the key to financial transformation creates a rush that seasoned collectors chase relentlessly. But for you, it could be different, because you might unknowingly own one already. That's where the real excitement begins as the market for rare coins continues to expand, fueled by wealthy investors diversifying their portfolios. The value of high-grade vintage pennies has skyrocketed. Every year, new buyers enter the market searching for iconic American coins with powerful historical connections. The 1968 Lincoln penny checks every box. It is familiar, it is accessible, and in its rarest form, it is unbelievably valuable. And because so few perfect examples survive, the price escalates with every new sale. Simple supply and demand, but with life-changing consequences. But here's the cliffhanger that keeps collectors awake at night. Somewhere out there, perhaps in a jar, in an attic, in a shoebox, or tucked inside a forgotten wallet, sits a 1968 penny that has never been touched by the hands of a grader. A ghost coin, a sleeper worth hundreds of thousands, maybe even over $1 million when the next bidding war erupts. And the person who finds it, their life changes instantly. Before we reveal the telltale signs of a valuable 1968 no-mint mark penny, let's confront the fear that stops most people from even trying. The fear of not knowing what to look for. The fear of wasting time. The fear of hoping for something big and coming up empty-handed. But remember, every collector who ever struck gold started with the same fear. The only difference is that they looked anyway. So what exactly separates a life-changing penny from an ordinary one? Start with the surface. You're looking for brilliance, clarity, a sharp definition in Lincoln's portrait, and a shimmering copper glow that looks almost freshly minted. No scratches. No wear on the jawline, the coat, or the wheat stalks on the reverse. Then consider the die. Some 1968 specimens were struck using exceptionally crisp dies that produced unusually bold details. These are the ones that can explode in value. And if you ever see a 1968 penny that looks significantly more perfect than any coin you've ever held from that era, don't spend it. Don't toss it aside. Don't clean it. Cleaning destroys value faster than you can say $1 million mistake. Instead, keep it safe, handle it with gloves, and prepare to send it for professional grading. Because once a coin like this receives a top-tier grade, the doors to wealth swing open. Auctions erupt with energy, bidders fight aggressively, and values spike higher than anyone anticipates. That is exactly how a simple penny reached $968,000, and why it could easily surpass that in future sales. We are living in a moment where old coins aren't just collectibles, they are wealth vehicles. Portable, historical, recession-resistant pieces of American heritage that can transform financial futures with one discovery. And this moment won't last forever. As more collectors lock these rare pennies away in long-term portfolios, the supply shrinks, and the opportunity slips quietly away. So here's the real question. Will your chance slip away too? Somewhere in America today, someone will find a rare coin without even trying. Someone will open a drawer, glance at a penny, and realize it holds years of financial security. That someone could be you. All you need to do is look. Just imagine telling your future self that the path to wealth, real, substantial, life-changing wealth, started with a coin you had all along. And as we close, remember this, the 1968 no-mint mark penny isn't just valuable because it's rare. It's valuable because it represents possibility. The possibility that wealth can hide in the simplest places. That fortune can appear in your everyday life. that the next big discovery might already be in your hands. So don't walk past your coin jar tonight. Don't ignore the change in your drawers. Because the next $1,000,000 penny is out there. And it's waiting for someone who's finally ready to go find it. Imagine discovering that the small copper coin hiding at the bottom of your old jar could be your one-way ticket to a life of freedom, comfort, and long-awaited security. Imagine realizing that the humble 1975 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny you haven't thought about in decades could be worth as much as $975,000 in today's market. And in some rare scenarios, even more. Yes, a coin you once tossed into a grocery store change cup might now be the key to transforming your financial future forever. Welcome to a story most people will never hear, but one you're about to fully understand and possibly experience yourself. It all begins with a simple question. How does a penny, a coin literally so common that we step over it without a glance, reach values comparable to luxury cars, prime real estate, or retirement-level wealth? The truth is far more fascinating and far more urgent than most collectors or even casual finders realize. But before we uncover why this particular coin has skyrocketed to nearly $1,000,000 in value, consider this. What if a coin just like it is sitting somewhere in your home right now? A quiet little fortune waiting for the right person to notice it. The 1975 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny has become one of those rare opportunities in the world of numismatics that seems almost unbelievable until you hear the full story. It's a coin born from a period of major change in U.S. currency history. The mid-1970s were filled with production inconsistencies, experimental strikes, and behind-the-scenes decisions at the U.S. Mint that collectors today still speculate about. Most Americans were unaware of these transitions, and why would they be? People were focused on rising inflation, shifting markets, and daily survival. But while the country was changing, so was the penny, and those production quirks created the rarest versions you can find today. Some 1975 pennies look like any other, ordinary and unremarkable. But a tiny number, extremely tiny, were struck with precision, unusual die qualities, or unexpected planchet characteristics that now send collectors into bidding frenzies. These are the coins that climb from pocket change to powerfully high six-figure valuations. And it's those errors and exceptional strikes that have recently fueled auction values reaching up to $975,000. The kind of number that makes people ask, seriously, for a penny? Yes, for this penny. But here's where things get even more interesting. The coin's value isn't only about rarity. It's also about timing. The collector market is experiencing a massive surge, driven by a blend of nostalgia, investment strategy, and global wealth shifting into tangible assets. People want something real, something they can hold, something with history and meaning. And what better fits that desire than a rare piece of American currency from an era many of us lived through ourselves? Yet for all its potential, the 1975 no-mint Mark penny is still overlooked by most people. That's the irony. The coin has the power to change someone's life, but it sits hidden, ignored, sleeping quietly in drawers and old wallets. Maybe even yours. How many times have you emptied your pockets, seen a penny, and thought, why do we even still use these? What if the worthless one was actually worth a house? Collectors search obsessively for sharp details, strong strikes, and unusual visual features. They inspect the date, the surface texture, the fields, the portrait of Lincoln, the rim, the reverse lettering, because the smallest difference can multiply value tenfold. The higher the grade, the sharper the details, the closer this coin gets to that astonishing $975,000 mark. And when an investor sees a penny in an ultra-high grade, their excitement becomes your opportunity. These coins can sell faster than you might expect, especially in today's market where buyers are hunting aggressively for pieces that combine rarity with a rich story. And the story of this penny? Oh, it's one for the books. It's mysterious, rumored, debated, and endlessly fascinating. Why are there so few surviving high-grade examples? Why do certain coins show characteristics that don't match standard production? Was it accidental, intentional, or simply the result of a mint department stretched thin during a chaotic time? Some believe these coins might even be linked to experimental processes kept quiet internally. Others argue that small run die varieties slipped into circulation unnoticed. Whatever the truth, the combination of secrecy and survival rarity is a big part of why the value keeps climbing, and why people feel a real emotional pull to find one. But let's talk about the fear that comes with this opportunity. The fear of missing out. The fear that while you're watching this video, someone else is going through their old penny jar, finding the coin that could have been yours. Fear is powerful, but so is knowledge, and you're getting knowledge most people never receive. Not many people know that the 1975 penny even has versions worth anything at all, let alone close to $1 million. That lack of awareness is exactly why fortunes remain undiscovered. So now let's shift from fear to excitement. Imagine opening a dusty box in your closet. Imagine pulling out a handful of coins saved from your childhood. Imagine spotting the date 1975, noticing the lack of a mint mark, and for the first time thinking, wait, what if this is one of them? Your heart would skip. Your hands would shake. That moment right there is what collectors live for. The moment hope becomes possibility. But don't get ahead of yourself. Here comes the cliffhanger. Not every 1975 penny without a mint mark is valuable. In fact, most aren't. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth nearly $1 million can be almost microscopic. And that's what keeps this journey thrilling. The ultra-valuable versions tend to show sharply defined lettering, a perfectly centered strike, a smooth, flawless surface free from the usual scratches and circulation damage. They might display unusual die markers, tiny bumps, lines, or shapes that trace back to rare die varieties. Some have exceptional luster, the kind that looks like it was frozen in time, untouched since the day it was minted. These small details separate a fortune from a forgettable coin. How do you know if yours has them? That part is coming soon, so keep watching, because understanding this is the difference between selling a penny and selling a life-changing treasure. Now let's talk about the emotional side that many people overlook. A rare coin isn't just a piece of metal. It's a piece of your story. It connects you to history, to family memories, to echoes of a life that once moved at a slower pace. Many people find these rare coins in old jars kept by parents or grandparents. That discovery brings back emotions, nostalgia, pride, even a sense of destiny. And when a coin further carries the potential for massive financial gain, those emotions intensify. It becomes more than money. It becomes legacy. But time is not your friend. As more people learn about coins like the 1975 penny, the competition increases. Collectors are buying aggressively. Auctions are closing faster. And those who act quickly stand to profit the most. Think of it like real estate. The early investors always get the best deals. So ask yourself honestly, when opportunity knocks, do you open the door? Or do you wait and hope? Before we reach the end of the story, consider one more question. What if the coin that could unlock your wealthy future is already in your possession, but you don't even know it yet? The journey to life-changing wealth sometimes starts with a tiny moment of curiosity, like deciding to check your coins instead of tossing them aside. That is the power of awareness. That is the power of taking action. And that is the power of this coin. Now here's your final cliffhanger, the moment that separates those who dream from those who decide. Right after this video, you have a choice. You can go back to life as usual, letting rare opportunities pass you by. Or you can take one simple step. Inspect your coins. Look for the date. Look for the details. Look for the signs that distinguish treasure from pocket change. That step might lead you to a penny worth $975,000 or more. And if it does, your entire life could change, from financial stress to financial freedom, from uncertainty to confidence, from surviving to truly living. The 1975 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is more than a coin. It's a reminder that sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest potential. And your story, the story of what you choose to do next, has only just begun. What if the smallest coin in your drawer, the one you haven't thought about in years, could be the key that unlocks the wealth and freedom you've always dreamed of? Because out there, sitting quietly in pockets, jars, and old family boxes, a 1979 D-mint Mark Lincoln penny has shocked collectors with sales climbing toward nearly $1 million. Yes, a single cent, currently valued as high as $979,000. Hard to believe. That disbelief is exactly why so many people overlook life-changing opportunities hiding in plain sight. Imagine the feeling of realizing that a coin you've ignored for decades could transform your lifestyle, pay off everything you owe, and open doors you never thought you'd walk through. It's the kind of discovery that gives people goosebumps, right before they sprint to check their change. But the real story isn't just about luck. It's about understanding why certain coins rise to legendary value and how you can recognize those hidden gems before someone else does. And as we uncover the truth behind this iconic 1979 D Lincoln penny, each detail will bring you one step closer to knowing exactly what to look for and what your own forgotten pennies might be worth. The journey begins in a time when America was changing fast. The late 1970s brought inflation, rising prices, and a new demand for production efficiency at the Denver Mint. Millions of pennies poured into circulation, and most of them lived uneventful lives rolling across countertops and disappearing into vending machines. Yet among those masses, a tiny fraction emerged with remarkable features. Rare errors, ultra-sharp strikes, brass planchet leftovers, and high-grade conditions that survived untouched for decades. Those tiny details, often invisible at a glance, are what pushed the value of a common coin into the realm of luxury homes, retirement freedom, and generational wealth. You can almost picture the scene. A collector at an auction raises his paddle, the room goes silent, and a coin worth 1 cent suddenly becomes a bidding war. Someone coughs, someone smiles, someone regrets not searching through their own coins sooner. And under that spotlight, the 1979 D Lincoln penny becomes more than a collectible. It becomes a symbol, a reminder that even the smallest pieces of our past can carry enormous value. But how does a simple penny reach 6 and even 7 figures? The secret lies in rarity, and rarity is created by complication. Let's start with what makes the 1979 D so unusual. Most pennies from that year were struck with typical circulation quality, meaning soft details and minor imperfections were normal. But a select few came from early die strikes, perfectly aligned equipment, or unexpected minting anomalies that produced incredibly crisp, sharply defined surfaces. These high-grade, untouched examples often earn elite certification grades like MS-67 or MS-68. That's where collectors start opening their wallets. And then there are the dramatic error coins. Off-center strikes so clean they look like modern art. Double dies with ghost-like doubling on letters and dates. Transitional alloy errors where copper planchets from earlier years accidentally slipped into production lines. Coins like these are the unicorns of the numismatic world. So rare that when one appears, serious collectors start feeling something between joy and panic. And panic leads to bidding. And bidding leads to numbers with more zeros than most people expect from a little brown penny. Maybe you're wondering, could you be holding one of these? Could the 1979 D penny in your old coffee tin be worth hundreds of thousands, or even more? Fair question. And this is where excitement meets urgency, because finding one of these valuable coins isn't just possible. It happens every year. Someone out there always discovers a coin nobody believed still existed in perfect condition. Someone always finds a mistake the mint never meant to make. And someone always walks into an auction house thinking they might get a few $100, and instead walks out with the kind of payday most people only fantasize about. Funny how life works, right? One minute you're cleaning out a drawer, the next you're calling your accountant asking how taxes work on $1 million penny. To identify whether you have a rare 1979 D, start with the details. Look closely at Lincoln's profile. Pay attention to the sharpness of the lettering, the clarity of the date, and the strength of the strike. Modern collectors obsess over even the slightest variations. A perfectly centered coin with pristine surfaces might already put you in a strong position. But a coin that also has a dramatic mint error? That's the kind of combination that doesn't just raise eyebrows, it raises auction paddles. And here's the real twist. Many of the most valuable 1979 D pennies were discovered not by experts, but by everyday people just like you. People who didn't think of themselves as collectors. People who simply paid attention. People who decided that a penny was worth more than a quick glance. That's the part of the story that creates the spark of possibility for anyone watching right now. You don't need decades of experience. You just need curiosity, a bit of knowledge, and the determination to check what others ignore. Yet time is working against you. Every year, coins disappear. They get spent, damaged, lost, corroded, or tossed into machines that don't care about historical value. That's why collectors become almost obsessive about finding high-grade survivors, those pristine coins that somehow escape circulation and age. With each passing year, the number of those survivors shrinks, while the value of the remaining examples climbs higher. So the window isn't closing, it's narrowing. And remember, wealthy collectors aren't looking for just any coin. They're searching for the finest examples known to exist. That's where the million-dollar figures come in. When there are only one or two coins in a grade that high, collectors don't just want them, they chase them. They compete for them. They pay more than anyone expects. Because owning the best isn't just about money. It's about status, legacy, and the thrill of securing something nearly no one else has. That's why the 1979 penny has become a modern treasure hunt. A treasure hidden in plain sight, waiting for whoever looks carefully enough. And if you think this sounds unbelievable, imagine the expression of the person who first realized their old penny was worth $979,000. Shock, disbelief, maybe even a laugh. And then reality, the kind of reality that changes a person's life forever. Now, before we reach the end of this story, there's something important you need to hear. You may not have checked your old penny jar yet. You may not have searched the boxes your parents or grandparents kept. You may not have studied the coins that pass through your hands every single day. And if you haven't, the question is simple. How many chances have you already missed? How many rare coins have slipped through your fingers without you ever knowing? That tiny fear you feel right now, that maybe you've overlooked something valuable. That's exactly why now is the moment to take action. Because for all you know, the next great discovery could be yours. A single moment of curiosity could lead to financial freedom, a debt-free life, or the wealth you've quietly hoped for over the years. And as we approach the final moments of this journey, here's the cliffhanger that matters most. The true value of the 1979 Lincoln penny isn't just what it sells for in an auction house. The true value is what it represents. The possibility that hidden wealth is already in your possession, just waiting to be recognized. So as you step away from this video, remember this. The next time you pick up a penny, don't dismiss it. Examine it. Study it. Because one day, that little copper coin might be the one that changes everything. Have you ever wondered if one small, ordinary-looking penny sitting in your home could be the key to a wealthier, freer, more secure life? Imagine opening an old drawer, picking up a dull copper coin, and realizing you're holding something valued today at up to $981,000. And in rare cases, even more. It sounds unbelievable, almost like a plot twist from a movie you didn't see coming. But the truth is simpler. The 1981 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny has become one of the most astonishing stories in the world of American coin collecting. And tonight, you're about to discover why this unassuming cent might be the opportunity you've been overlooking for years. Before we dive in, take a moment to think about how many times a penny has passed through your hands without a second glance. How many drawers, jars, and boxes you've stored away for decades without ever checking what they really contain. It's a little scary, isn't it? The possibility that you've walked past the financial chance of a lifetime. But don't worry. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for, what makes these coins so valuable, and how everyday Americans are turning forgotten cents into life-changing paydays. The story begins in a time that doesn't feel so far away, 1981. Ronald Reagan had just stepped into the White House. The economy was shifting, and the U.S. Mint was preparing for something big. The last full year of producing pennies from 95% copper. Within a year, rising metal prices would force the switch to the cheaper copper-plated zinc coins we use today. But 1981 was still a turning point, and the decisions made inside the mint created one of the most collectible modern pennies in U.S. history. The 1981 no-mint mark penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Millions were produced, yes, but not all pennies are created equal. Some were struck with extraordinary clarity, some with rare errors, and some survived in pristine condition that should have been impossible for a small cent meant for everyday circulation. And here's the surprising twist. Because collectors initially overlooked these coins, many of the rarest pieces remained hidden in ordinary homes, tucked into jars, collections, pocket change, and maybe even inside your home right now. You might wonder, how does a penny go from face value to nearly $1 million? The answer lies in the combination of rarity, condition, demand, and the escalating market for high-grade copper cents. The highest grade 1981 specimens, graded by professional services as flawless or near flawless, have shattered expectations in auction houses. Some have soared into six-figure territory, and one premium example recently stunned collectors with a valuation of $981,000. Yes, a single penny. It's the kind of number that makes you ask, wait, am I checking my change jar correctly? But let's pause for a moment. If you're feeling a mix of excitement and nervous curiosity, that's normal. Because when you realize the value of something so small, suddenly every old penny around you becomes a mystery waiting to be solved. And that sense of possibility is exactly what keeps collectors, investors, and treasure hunters constantly searching to truly understand the value of these coins. You need to know what sets them apart. First is the metal content. The 1981 penny is among the final waves of true copper coins, heavier, richer in color, and more durable. Copper coins react beautifully when struck sharply, revealing crisp details in Lincoln's portrait, the lettering, and the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. A perfectly struck 1981 cent with no mint mark is a visual masterpiece. Next, consider condition. Grading is everything. A penny in circulated condition may be worth a few dollars, but one in mint state, with deep red luster, flawless surfaces, and microscopic perfection, becomes a financial rocket. It's funny how collectors can obsess over a tiny scratch so small you'd need a microscope to even find it. But hey, when perfection is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, people suddenly become very passionate about scratches. Then there are the errors. Some 1981 no-mint mark pennies were struck using dies intended for proof-quality coins. Others show doubled features, off-center strikes, or rare variations in the steps of the memorial. These errors are the unexpected jackpots of the coin world. They're the reason thousands of Americans are now revisiting old jars and boxes with magnifying glasses, hoping to uncover the one coin that escaped unnoticed for 40 years. You might laugh now, but wait until you see someone squinting intensely at a penny like it's a map to buried treasure. Maybe that person will be you. But even more important than the technical details is the shift happening right now in the collector market. As the economy fluctuates, more Americans in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s are turning to alternative assets to secure their financial futures. Rare coins have quietly become one of the strongest performers. High-grade copper cents, especially from the late 70s and early 80s, are skyrocketing. And the 1981 no-mint mark penny is at the center of that surge. Every year, fewer mint-state examples remain available as collectors lock them away in private collections. Scarcity increases, prices rise, and once one piece sells for nearly $1 million, the entire market shifts. You can sense it now, the tension, the feeling that you might be sitting on something extraordinary, and you won't know unless you look. But before you rush off, hold on. The most critical details come next, and missing them could cost you a fortune. When searching for a 1981 penny, pay attention to color. The most valuable pieces carry the deep, fiery red luster known as RD. These coins look almost alive under the light, glowing with the original brilliance they left the mint with. Next, check for sharp, crisp lines in Lincoln's hair, clothing folds, and the lettering across the rim. Any weakness in these areas affects value dramatically. Even the tiniest nicks, those you barely notice, can drop a coin from a six-figure treasure to a $10 common piece. It's a little terrifying, right? One micro scratch standing between you and financial freedom. But that's also what makes this chase so thrilling. And here's the part most people overlook. The market rewards certified coins. A coin graded and sealed by professional grading services instantly gains legitimacy and trust. If your coin turns out to be high grade, getting it professionally certified could be the single most profitable decision you make this year, or possibly this decade. Now imagine this. You discover a flawless 1981 penny. You send it for grading, comes back in near perfect condition, commands national bidding attention, and suddenly, your life changes. Your bills, your plans, your dreams shift instantly. It wouldn't be the first time, and it certainly won't be the last. Stories like this circulate in the coin community every month. silent reminders that wealth doesn't always come from hard labor. Sometimes it comes from awareness. But the real question is this: will you act, or will you assume that rare treasures only happen to other people? Because someone, somewhere in America, is going to find the next record-breaking penny. Someone is going to open that dusty jar in their home and pull out a coin worth more than some houses. Someone is going to experience that rush of excitement, disbelief, and sudden possibility. Why should that person not be you? You're here because you're searching for ways to increase your wealth, to secure your future, to give yourself and your family options that most people only dream about. And that journey often starts with recognizing opportunities others overlook. Before this video ends, let me leave you with one final cliffhanger. The next major surge in the coin market is predicted to hit soon. Collectors are preparing. Investors are positioning. And the 1981 no-mint mark penny is expected to become even more competitive. Demand is rising. Supply is shrinking. And every day that passes, more hidden coins disappear into long-term collections forever. So if you want your chance, your moment, your possibility of holding a $981,000 treasure, start looking now. Because the next life-changing penny could already be in your hands. Most people walk past a simple penny without a second thought. But what if I told you that one of those pennies, sitting quietly in a forgotten drawer or tucked into an old jar, could be worth more than a luxury home? Welcome back, and today, we're uncovering the shocking truth about the 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that looks ordinary, until it isn't. Because in rare cases, this everyday coin has sold for as much as $989,000. And some experts believe the right specimen could even push into the millions. Yes, millions. Imagine finding that in the bottom of your kitchen junk drawer. Not a bad day, right? But before you start tearing your house apart like you're in the middle of a treasure hunt reality show, stay with me. Because the story behind this coin isn't just about money. It's about how a tiny piece of copper-plated zinc can change someone's life, spark hope, and reveal opportunities that most people never even realize are sitting right in their hands. It all starts with a question that has haunted collectors for decades. How can a coin minted in the tens of billions suddenly become one of the rarest and most valuable pieces of American currency? The answer lies buried in a mixture of minting anomalies, collector demand, and a pulse of mystery that has only grown stronger with time. And if you're thinking, well, my 1989 penny probably isn't special, think again, because that's exactly what the people who found the rare ones once thought too. Now, let's step back to 1989, a year when the US Mint struck an enormous amount of pennies. They were supposed to be uniform, flawless, identical. But as with any massive production, errors slip through the cracks. Sometimes a die misaligns. Sometimes a planchet behaves unpredictably. And sometimes the unexpected happens. A simple penny becomes a millionaire maker. Some of the most valuable 1989 pennies show dramatic doubling, hidden repunched features, off-metal compositions, or deeply defined strike anomalies that weren't caught before they entered circulation. Combine that with pristine condition, the kind that looks like it slipped through time untouched, and suddenly you have a coin that collectors start fighting over. What drives that demand? Scarcity fuels desire. Desire fuels price. And price fuels the dream that maybe, just maybe, the penny in your pocket isn't just a penny. For a coin to approach the legendary $989,000 sale level, it must be nearly perfect. Flawless luster, razor-sharp details, no scratches from jangling in jeans for 25 years. Funny enough, that's how many people lose their fortune. By accidentally spending the very coin that could have changed their life. Talk about terrifying, right? Imagine handing a $1 million penny to a cashier to buy a cup of coffee. If that doesn't give you chills, check your pulse. Collectors crave coins that show not just rarity, but a moment frozen in time. They want the mystery, the anomalies, the impossible details that defy expectation. And that's exactly why the 1989 penny has earned this strange fame. It doesn't advertise its value. Instead, it hides in plain sight, just unremarkable enough to blend in everywhere, yet rare enough to electrify the lucky few who discover the truth. And let's be honest, who doesn't love the idea of stumbling upon instant wealth? Especially today, when people are searching for new streams of income, new opportunities to rise above financial stress. and new paths to a more comfortable, luxurious life. Selling one coin couldn't just pay bills, could wipe out debt, fund retirement, buy property, or even spark a new business. All because you noticed what most people overlook. But here's where things get even more interesting. While millions of 1989 pennies exist, only a microscopic percentage carry the traits that make them extraordinary. So how do you know if yours is one of them? That's the million-dollar question, sometimes literally. Look for strong doubling on the date, the word liberty, or the motto. Look for deep, crisp detail in Lincoln's coat and beard. Look for off-center striking that still preserves the full date. And most importantly, check the condition. A penny that's been tossed into a jar for 30 years can still be a treasure, but one that stayed hidden in a bankroll or slipped out of the mint untouched might be the jackpot. Of course, some people hesitate. They think, why would my coin be special? Or values like that don't happen to people like me. But that doubt is exactly what keeps most people from discovering life-changing opportunities. Wealth doesn't always arrive with a warning label. Sometimes it arrives disguised as something you've seen 1,000 times. That's the beauty and the fear of coin hunting. The unknown. That whisper of possibility. That quiet thrill that you might be holding a fortune and never knew it. And speaking of thrill, we need to talk about what happens when collectors find out you have something truly rare. Let's just say it gets competitive. Offers come quickly. Values climb. Auctions heat up. And suddenly you're looking at numbers like $250,000, $600,000, $989,000, or more. It's not unrealistic. It's not exaggerated. It's simply the reality of a high-stakes collectible market driven by scarcity, passion, and the relentless desire to own something nobody else has. If that doesn't create goosebumps, I don't know what will. But before you imagine yourself sailing away on a yacht funded by a single penny, here's the twist in the story. Most people never check. They never look closely enough. They never take the 30 seconds that could change their entire financial future. That's the tragedy and the opportunity. Because for you watching this right now, the realization is setting in. What if you already own one? What if it's sitting somewhere nearby while you listen to this? You see, the most powerful wealth is the kind hidden in everyday life. And that brings us to the moment that shifts everything. The reason you're still here. The reason the 1989 penny has become a legend in the collector world. Values are climbing again. Interest is spiking. And the market for rare pennies is more aggressive than it has been in years. Every month, new record sales appear. Collectors are hungry, investors are circling, and competition is growing. Which means the window of opportunity doesn't stay open forever, so here's the urgency. If you have 1989 pennies, now is the time to check them. Not tomorrow, not someday, today. Because the people who wait are the people who miss out. And the people who act are the ones who turn small details into massive victories. Picture yourself lighting up with excitement as you discover an error you never noticed before. Picture the appraisal. Picture the auction. Picture the moment you realize you're holding something worth more than most cars, homes, or salaries. And just when you think the story ends there, it doesn't. Because the truth is, the 1989 penny is only the beginning. Once you start looking, you'll find opportunities everywhere. In old jars, inherited collections, forgotten boxes, thrift stores, flea markets, estate sales. Every coin has a story, and some of those stories come with life-changing rewards. But for now, one question remains. One that might keep you awake tonight, staring at the ceiling, wondering, is the next $1 million penny already in your home? And you just haven't found it yet? Check your coins, because the next remarkable discovery might belong to you, and the story of how your life changed forever could begin with a single, ordinary-looking penny from 1989. What if the humble 1991 Lincoln penny, the one with no mint mark and no special shine, secretly held the power to change your financial life? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear has already shocked thousands of collectors, sellers, and everyday people who never imagined that a single penny could be the doorway to a wealthier future. It all starts with a story not about money, but about oversight. In 1991, millions of pennies rolled out of the U.S. Mint, and like most years, they slipped unnoticed into pockets, purses, and piggy banks. No drama, no headlines. But hidden among these everyday coins were a few anomalies. extreme rarities that today can command staggering prices, reaching as high as $991,000 in the current market. Yes, almost $1 million for a coin most people think isn't even worth bending down to pick up. Why does this happen? Why does an ordinary year suddenly produce a coin extraordinary enough to make seasoned collectors lean forward and whisper, "Find one, if you can"? That's where the mystery begins. To understand why this specific penny has skyrocketed in value, you need to understand the power of imperfection. The 1991 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, on the surface, looks unremarkable. But tiny variations, microscopic details, and incredibly rare production quirks turn a regular coin into an asset that wealthy collectors chase like treasure hunters pursuing a lost artifact. Some of these pennies show incredibly sharp strikes, unusual metal clarity, or die varieties so scarce that experts can count known examples on their fingers. When the supply is that small and the demand is high, something amazing happens. The price disconnects from logic and leaps into the territory of luxury collectibles. Suddenly, it's not about copper-plated zinc. It's about exclusivity, status, and financial potential. But here's where the fear creeps in, because most people never check their pennies. And while thousands of Americans toss old change into jars, roll them for the bank, or even give them away, a few individuals will unknowingly hand over life-changing wealth. Imagine realizing years later that you let $1 million slip through your fingers for a single cent. You wouldn't be the first person to feel that sting. And that's why this moment matters. Because right now, while the market is hot and buyers are fighting over the rarest small-denomination coins, you have an opportunity to take action before the window closes. Of course, this raises the big question. What exactly makes one 1991 penny worth 1 cent and another worth the price of an oceanfront condo? The difference lies in condition, rarity, and verification. Collectors chase perfection. Pennies graded at the highest levels, often MS 67 or MS 68, with flawless surfaces and stunning luster. But then there are the super rarities. Error coins, double dies, off-center strikes, die clashes, and even transitional anomalies that weren't supposed to exist. These are the coins that rewrite price guides and send shockwaves through the numismatic world. And the 1991 no-mint Mark penny has a few examples so breathtaking that experts say they should not, by all reasonable manufacturing standards, exist. Yet they do, and the lucky few who discovered them have turned tiny metal discs into enormous financial wins. You may be wondering, does the average person stand a chance of finding one? Surprisingly, yes, because pennies from the 1990s still circulate widely. They hide in old drawers, coin jars, estate boxes, forgotten savings stashes, and inherited collections. This means the next major discovery could very well come from someone who isn't a professional collector at all. Someone who simply took a moment to look closely. Someone like you. All you need is awareness, curiosity, and the willingness to inspect what others overlook. Funny how sometimes wealth shows up dressed as something boring. But the excitement doesn't stop there, because values are climbing, not slowly, but aggressively. Over the last several years, as collectors hunt for modern rarities, competition has intensified. Auctions that once drew modest attention now spark bidding wars. Buyers with deep pockets are fighting to claim the finest examples before the market moves again. Each major sale sets a new benchmark, and the most extraordinary 1991 pennies are now approaching the $1 million mark, with top-known examples touching the $991,000 range today. The fear of missing out is real, and wealthy collectors know it. They're buying now while the supply is still microscopic and the long-term upside could be enormous. Still, there's always a twist in stories like this. And here, it's the fact that most people underestimate the value of knowledge. They think coin collecting is a hobby for older folks or history buffs. But the truth is far more powerful. Coins are a market. A real market driven by scarcity, desirability, and investment potential. Every major collector today started with the same uncertainty you may be feeling right now. And almost all of them have a story about the one coin they wish they hadn't ignored. So ask yourself, how many pennies have you looked past in your life? What could be hiding right under your nose? The real magic isn't in the coin itself, but in what it represents. Opportunity, timing, fortune waiting quietly in your home. The idea that something as small as a penny could help fund a dream, whether that's paying off debt, boosting retirement, traveling the world, or creating the wealthy lifestyle you've always imagined. This isn't fantasy. It's happening for people who once thought they were just lucky, when in reality, they were simply paying attention at the right moment. But let's be honest, opportunities like this don't stay open forever. As more rare 1991 pennies are discovered, certified, and locked into private collections, the remaining supply dries up. And once they're gone, they're gone. Think of the coins worth millions today that people tossed around decades ago, assuming they were worthless. The same pattern is repeating itself. The same cycle. The same blindness. Only now you're aware of it, and that awareness is your advantage. So take this as a quiet but urgent signal. Go through your drawers. Check your old coin rolls. Look carefully at every 1991 penny you find. Examine the surfaces, the edges, the shine. If you discover something unusual, flawless, or simply too perfect to be ignored, get it graded. Professionals can confirm what your eyes suspect. And once certified, that little penny could become one of the most valuable items you've ever owned. And if you're thinking, what are the odds that I'm the one to find something worth 6 or 7 figures? Consider this. Someone will. Someone always does. A viewer of a video just like this one might already be holding one without realizing its value. And the thought that it could be you, well, that's the thrill, isn't it? That's the feeling that pulls you just a little further down the rabbit hole. Just like a good cliffhanger, it keeps you leaning in, waiting for what comes next. So here's the final question to leave you with tonight. When opportunity is sitting quietly in a forgotten penny jar in your own home, will you walk past it? Or will you look closely enough to change the next chapter of your financial story? The answer could be worth up to $991,000. The kind of wealth that doesn't just add comfort, but transforms possibility into reality. Sometimes a fortune doesn't shout. It whispers. Listen closely. Imagine waking up one morning, reaching into an old jar of coins, and discovering that a simple penny you've been overlooking for years could be worth more than a luxury home. It sounds unbelievable, almost like something out of a movie, yet it's happening right now across the country. And today, we're diving into one coin that has shaken the world of collectors and everyday people alike. The 2006 D Mint Mark Lincoln 1 cent. A coin that in rare cases has soared to a jaw-dropping value of over $206,000, with some experts believing certain extraordinary errors could push its worth into the millions. So before you toss that penny aside or slide it back into your wallet, stay with me, because what you're about to learn could change the way you see loose change forever. Most people think modern pennies aren't worth paying attention to. They assume the valuable ones are the old, dusty wheat cents from the 1940s or the early 1900s. But that misconception is exactly why so many rare modern pennies slip through the cracks. And that wave of missed opportunity is where your advantage begins. The 2006 D penny isn't just a coin. It's the perfect example of how wealth often hides in places no one thinks to look. Coins minted in Denver that year were mass-produced, yes, but among those billions lies a microscopic fraction that contain the kinds of minting mistakes collectors dream about. And if you find one of these, your financial future could shift faster than you ever imagined. Of course, people always ask, why would a penny from 2006 be worth a fortune? The answer is part mystery, part history, and part opportunity. In 2006, the U.S. Mint faced production pressure, pushing machines and dies to their limits. As a result, a small number of pennies showed dramatic anomalies, struck through grease errors, double dies, off-center strikes, missing elements, even rare transitional planchet mistakes that shouldn't exist but somehow slipped out. These mistakes are lightning in a bottle, and collectors are willing to pay staggering amounts for them. And here's the truth. The coin that reached over $206,000 wasn't discovered by a professional. It was found by an everyday person who simply bothered to look. This realization alone should spark a sense of urgency, because millions of Americans likely have 2006 D pennies sitting in junk drawers, glove compartments, mason jars, or piggy banks, and most will never check. Imagine being the one who does. Imagine the shift in your life, from small daily worries to real financial breathing room, just because you paid attention to something everyone else ignored. It almost sounds unfair, doesn't it? But that's how opportunity works. It rewards the watchful, the curious, and the willing. Now, before we dive deeper, ask yourself this. When was the last time you really looked at your pocket change? Not just glanced at it, but inspected it like it might be hiding a secret. Most people laugh at the idea. After all, who thinks of wealth when they're holding a dirty penny? But that's exactly why stories like this take people by surprise. Coins like the 2006 remind us that wealth doesn't always show up wearing a suit and tie. Sometimes it shows up covered in fingerprints and dust. And here's where things get even more interesting. Many of the most valuable 2006 pennies exhibit errors so small you'd never spot them at a quick glance. A tiny doubling on the date, a barely tilted strike, a faint missing detail, a bizarre texture caused by grease-filled dyes. These subtle clues separate ordinary coins from life-changing ones. And every time a collector or expert evaluates one of these rare pieces, bidding wars follow. Market demand is at an all-time high, fueled by collectors eager to secure the next anomaly that could rewrite coin-collecting history. When demand spikes and supply is microscopic, value rockets upward. That's why these coins are creating headlines. That's why a 1-cent coin is being discussed in terms of $100,000 sales. And that's why some experts whisper about the possibility of million-dollar specimens. Still, many viewers wonder, is this really possible today? Yes. In fact, right now might be the perfect time. The market for rare pennies is heating up fast, driven by social media exposure, auction results, and growing interest from investors seeking alternative assets. Think about that for a moment. While some people chase stocks, crypto, or real estate, others are turning a simple copper-plated zinc penny into a life-altering investment. It almost feels like a plot twist the financial world didn't see coming. And for those who own jars full of change, that twist could be very profitable. But don't think this journey is without its fear factor. Fear shows up the moment someone realizes they might have possessed one of these pennies and spent it without knowing. The thought haunts collectors and beginners alike. What if you've already let a valuable one slip through your fingers? What if it was in your pocket last month? That fear is powerful, but it's also motivating. Because once you understand the potential, you'll never look at your pennies the same way again. And that shift in awareness puts you miles ahead of most people. Let's talk details, because precision matters. If you want to find the kinds of 2006 pennies capable of reaching jaw-dropping values, you'll need patience, good lighting, and maybe a magnifying glass. Look for strong doubling on the motto, the date, or Lincoln's profile. Check for off-center strikes that push the design toward the rim. Inspect for missing letters, odd stamps, cracks in the die, or unusual surface textures. And don't forget transitional planchet errors, coins struck on metal compositions that do not belong to that year. These are the unicorns of modern minting. Rare, unexpected, and extremely valuable. And here's the twist that keeps collectors hooked. Sometimes the most valuable discovery is the one nobody knew existed. Every few years, a new error surfaces that experts never documented before. When that happens, the first specimen becomes priceless, not just rare, but historically significant. Could such a discovery still be hiding within the 2006 population? Many believe so, and if the next unknown error emerges from someone's old jar of coins, it could instantly make headlines, spark bidding wars, and rewrite price guides. And who's to say that finder can't be you? Now let's imagine the outcome. Imagine for a moment that you discover one of these extraordinary pennies. Imagine watching the bids rise at auction. Imagine the moment you hold a check that could transform your life. Pay off your debts, upgrade your home, send your kids to college, or give you the freedom to chase new dreams. Opportunities like this don't come often, especially from something as humble as a penny. But that's the beauty of it. Wealth doesn't always come roaring through the front door. Sometimes it whispers from the smallest corner of your life, waiting for you to notice. And yet, before we reach the end, there's one more twist to this story, and it's the one most people overlook. The real value of the 2006 penny isn't just in the coin itself. It's in the awareness it creates. Once you understand that extraordinary wealth can hide in ordinary places, you start noticing opportunities everywhere. The idea that a 1-cent coin could change your life becomes a symbol of something bigger. The possibility that overlooked things, Pennies, ideas, chances, might be worth far more than you ever imagined. And once that mindset clicks, it stays with you forever. So as we approach the final moments of this video, consider this cliffhanger. The next big discovery in the world of rare coins has not yet been made. Somewhere out there, in someone's drawer or pocket or attic, the next multimillion-dollar penny is waiting. Could be a 2006 D. It could be one of the rarest minting errors ever produced. And someone watching videos just like this will eventually find it. The only question left is simple: will that someone be you? Imagine waking up one morning, digging through an old drawer, and realizing that a simple penny you've ignored for years could be worth more than most luxury cars, more than many homes, and more than some people make in a decade. Sounds unbelievable, right? Yet this is exactly what has happened to a few lucky Americans who discovered that their ordinary-looking 2014 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark at all, wasn't ordinary in the slightest. Some rare varieties of this coin have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and a select few have soared into the millions. And as you'll see, the opportunity to uncover one might be far closer than you think. Welcome to a story about a coin that hides in plain sight, a coin minted just a decade ago, a coin most people toss into a jar without thinking twice. But as you're about to learn, rarity doesn't always come from centuries of age. It often comes from the smallest mistakes, the slightest imperfections, or the rarest production anomalies. And those little details can turn a 1-cent coin into a life-changing windfall. Before we go deeper, let me ask you something. When was the last time you checked the pennies lying in your car console or kitchen drawer? If you're like most people, probably never. But those pennies might be holding your next chapter of financial freedom. And yes, I know, checking pennies doesn't sound thrilling. But neither does checking a lottery ticket until the moment you realize you've won. The story of the 2014 no-mint mark Lincoln penny begins quietly. Most of these coins were minted in Philadelphia, which traditionally uses no mint mark. They were produced by the billions. But within that enormous production run, a tiny number came out, different. These rare errors and exceptional high-grade survivors are the coins that collectors are willing to pay staggering amounts for. The current known high-value pieces have sold for as much as $214,000, and some experts estimate the highest-grade examples could push into the million-dollar range as demand grows. Imagine holding a penny, just one, and realizing it could wipe out your debts, pay for your children's college, or launch the retirement lifestyle you've dreamed of. That's not fantasy. That's the reality of the rare 2014 penny discoveries. But here's the twist. Nobody knows exactly how many extraordinarily valuable examples are still out there. Not collectors, not dealers, not even the US Mint. They simply appear suddenly and unexpectedly when someone pays attention. Maybe someone like you. And that uncertainty creates both excitement and fear, because while someone else is discovering the next six-figure penny, you could still be overlooking yours every single day. How many times have these rare coins passed through grocery store counters, slipped through the cracks of office desks, or jingled in pockets before being tossed aside as worthless? It's almost unsettling to think about. Yet this is where things get even more interesting. The coins bringing in the highest prices share a few characteristics. They're flawless, they have extremely rare minting errors, or they've been preserved in pristine condition since the moment they were struck. Some display double details, some show off-center striking, and a select few possess composition or die anomalies so rare that specialists still debate how they happened. And here's the part that should make you lean in a little closer. The owners of these high-value coins didn't find them in auctions. They found them in change. The rise in value is fueled by collectors hunting for modern rarities. Older coins are almost predictable in their market behavior. But modern minting errors? They're like gold nuggets accidentally left in a riverbed. Anyone can find one. Anyone. This growing demand is creating a rush, and the window of opportunity won't stay open forever. As more people discover these rare coins and send them off for professional grading, the remaining supply shrinks. Every coin added to the census reduces the chance that the next discovery will break previous price records. That means the most valuable ones are likely still hidden, waiting for the first set of eyes to recognize them. If you're watching this, there's a good chance you're already interested in turning forgotten pocket change into real wealth. You're not just curious, you're searching for possibilities, new ways to build security, financial freedom, maybe even generational wealth. And that's why this coin matters. Because it's not just a collectible. It's a reminder that wealth can be found in the ordinary, in the overlooked, in the things everyone else ignores. But to find these rare 2014 pennies, you'll need to pay close attention. Look for unusually sharp detail, especially on Abraham Lincoln's face and the Union Shield on the reverse. Check for doubling on the date and lettering. Watch for coins that look strangely off-center or have unusual textures or colors. And most importantly, don't underestimate condition. A normal penny in poor shape is worth 1 cent. A rare penny in perfect shape is worth a fortune. It sounds almost unfair, until you remember that the people who check their change are the ones who win. Of course, the idea of finding a 6-figure penny might sound too good to be true. But that's exactly how most extraordinary discoveries sound, right up until someone makes one. And if you think valuable coins are always old, think again. In the last decade, collectors have paid record-breaking prices for coins minted in the 2000s and 2010s. Age isn't the determining factor anymore. Rarity is, condition is, and timing is. And here's where urgency comes in. Prices for these rare modern pennies are rising because collectors see them as the next frontier, an unexplored territory filled with new treasures. But every year that passes, the chance to find untouched, high-grade examples slips further away. Coins get scratched, worn down, corroded, or simply lost. The longer you wait, the fewer opportunities remain. You're probably wondering now, what if you actually have one of these rare 2014 pennies? What if that jar in your closet is holding wealth you didn't even know you owned? And what if the only thing standing between you and a massive payout is simply taking the time to look? That small possibility creates a powerful shift, from maybe to what if to why not. But here's the cliffhanger you weren't expecting. The most valuable 2014 penny ever found wasn't discovered by a collector. It wasn't found by a dealer. It wasn't identified by an expert. It was found by an everyday person who had no idea what they were looking at. They simply had the curiosity to check their change. And that leaves one big question hanging in the air. If they could find one, why not you? So before you go about your day, before another penny slips past your hands unnoticed, remember this. Wealth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it hides behind a copper sheen, waiting for someone with curiosity, someone with ambition, someone with the determination to look a little deeper. You're already watching this because part of you believes in opportunity. So don't let opportunity sit in a drawer unrecognized. Search your pennies. Look closely, because the next 2014 Lincoln penny worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, or even millions, is still out there. And it might already be in your home.